Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of the mini-series on the Royal Shakespeare Company in Stratford-upon-Avon. Now, in episode 1, I spoke to Dean, who was the senior marketing manager at the Royal Shakespeare Company, and he talks about, the company in general. But today, my second guest in the series is a lady called Josefa MacKinnon, and she is the creative program developer, access and inclusion. So she deals with all the access performances, and so we're going to talk about that today. So hi, Josefa. Thank you
Hello.
for joining me today.
It's a privilege. Thank you for asking. That's great.
So, firstly of all, Josefa, could you tell me about your role within the Royal Shakespeare Company?
Yes, of course. We're quite a large organisation, so I'm not sure if my exact role is available in other theatres, but I sit in the producers department and I look at planning and producing all of the assisted performances across the 3 theatres that we have in Stratford. We also have shows in London, Matilda the Musical. We've soon got a season opening at the Barbican, which we do every year. And we have lots of transfers. So we've got My Neighbour Totoro coming up, and we've just announced a UK tour of Matilda as well. So there's quite a few productions that I look after the assisted performances for.
And obviously, could you give us some examples of some of your assisted performances? Because I had a quick look on the website and there's quite a few, like Hamlet, Othello, The Red Shoes. They're just a few examples. So what do them sort of assisted performances, what do they include?
So we, as a rule, have 5 different types of assisted performances. We offer captioning for each production on selected performances, and that's where we have caption screens that provide the subtitles, the words and the sounds that are being produced on stage. We aim to have a clear view for everyone in the auditorium to see those, but you can also book best view seats as well through the box office or the website. But they're really great, obviously, if you're deaf or hard of hearing, but also fantastic if you're neurodivergent. I use them myself. I'm neurodivergent and I have audio processing, so they help. They're great if you're a student, whether you're 5 years old or a PhD student studying Shakespeare. They're also really helpful if you're new to Shakespeare, or if Shakespeare is not your first language. And I haven't met anyone in my 8 years here who uses Shakespearean language every day. So there's lots of unfamiliar words and names and places. So they're really good to kind of help track the story that way as well. So they've got a wide range of use. They're really a great assisted performance. We also do audio described performances for every production on selected days. And this is where we have live audio description going through headsets that you can pick up at the cloakroom. And they tell you more about the movements and the design and the lighting of the production. So they give you a more literal experience. So great if you're partially sighted or blind, but again, also really help people who are neurodivergent and may want a more literal experience. We've recently announced that we're doing Midsummer Night's Dream at the Barbican, and that includes creative audio description, which means the description is delivered by the actors off stage through headsets. So the description will be in character and kind of fit in with the theme of the play, which is a really wonderful experience. And we have that every performance after press. We also offer integrated BSL interpreted performances, where the interpreter is like an additional character within the company. So they have a costume and they move about on set and they interact with the other characters, but they're just retelling the story through sign language. They're a really wonderful performances to watch. We have chilled performances. These are really great for people who have never been to the theatre before. Great for first timers, again, great for school groups. They're also really good for people who may want to have a bit more freedom to have a little chat or to come and go from the auditorium. We don't change anything about the sensory environment for chill performances, so they're not relaxed performances, but they do have a more casual etiquette in the auditorium. So if you're not sure if you can sit through 3 hours of Shakespeare, it's a great one for you because you can come and go. You can go and grab an extra ice cream if you wanted to. Or if you feel like you need to stand up and move around to be able to enjoy it, then that's fine. If perhaps you're pregnant and you think you might need the loo 5 times, then that's a really good performance for you as well. They're very welcoming and inclusive performances. And then finally, I've already referred to it, but we do relaxed performances. And these are amazing productions. Everybody comes together. We do sensory adapt the show. So we consider any loud noises and lighting effects, and we may reduce those, but we try not to change the production too much so people can still see the production that everyone else is seeing. We make sure that there's a real complete list of content and trigger warnings out, and we create a visual story for people who are coming to the theatre. We also hold off what we call wriggle seats. So there's a bit more room in the auditorium. It's not as busy as any other production. And there are often volunteers around and lots of sensory and chill out areas around the building as well. They're really great performances. We do have subsidised and reduced ticket prices for our relaxed performances as well.
Yes, I was just wondering as well, going off of that, you say a lot of reduce, because I'm disabled, I have a disability, cerebral palsy, I'm a wheelchair user, and a lot of places, you know, when you go to the theatre, they offer like where the carer goes free or at a reduced price. They go as the companion to the person with a disability. Is that something Royal Shakespeare offers or something similar to that?
Yeah, we do. In our performances in Stratford, all our disability rate tickets are £16. And if you need, you can get a free companion seat with that as well. So it's a really good price. That can obviously mean if you use a wheelchair, if you're deaf or blind, partially sighted, or neurodivergent. So any of those. And we never ask for proof of a disability as well at the time of booking. So just make sure, I don't think you can book the companion seat online. So you're better off emailing or telephoning or going in person to box office to talk about having a companion seat. But yeah, we do offer that.
Thank you. That's really good to know. So with I spoke with when I spoke with Dean, the first episode of this sort of mini series. Dean sort of spoke about the range of educational resources because you do a lot of work with students in schools and other young people. And so, do you sort of make some of them resources more accessible to people with a range of disabilities or impairments?
Yeah, we have quite a range of resources that obviously go out to our schools as well, but they're available for everyone. We do audio notes, which are a bit like, I suppose it's a bit like a podcast, and they go into detail about what the set looks like and the costume and the characters. We also provide, when we do integrated BSL performances, we provide kind of a signed visual synopsis. So we'll introduce you to the interpreter. We'll also introduce you through images and sign language to the cast and a brief synopsis about the production that you're coming to see. We do, for every production, we do sonic stories, which are a really amazing resource if you're sensitive to noise, whether that's loud or quiet, because I think people knowing where it's going to be quiet is really important, especially if you have tics, for example. They are created by Tourette's Hero, and they take a sound wave of our production and make it into a visual resource. So you see the highs and the lows of where the production is at its loudest and its quietest. And then it may highlight certain noises. So it will say this loud noise is a gunshot, or this is some trumpets, or even just the applause at the end. And then you can also see the real quiet moments as well. So you know where you might feel a bit more anxious about making noise, but there's a louder bit coming up. So it's a really useful resource, our Sonic Story. We provide content advisory on our website, which will detail some themes and other technical triggers like haze or gunshots again, for example. And we also create visual stories, especially for our relaxed performances. But this is something we want to develop to have for every production. And that's a bit more of a guide to the buildings and coming to the theatre, but also to the production. And it will have a synopsis and images that will go through the plot of the story.
And oh, that's really good to know. Thank you for sharing that, Josefa. And I would really appreciate it, maybe could speak to Dean to send me some of them links, because when this mini-series is posted, I'm more than happy to share any links of resources so what people can just click on and it'll take them straight to the resource. I think that would be really useful.
Lovely. Yeah, we can do that for you.
Yeah. So what are your sorts of ideas for the future going forward?
Yeah, I already mentioned about creating more visual stories for every production. So that's something that we're working on now, and being more clearer about sharing the knowledge of what the productions involve so people can make informed decisions about whether it's for them. But also, I'm really interested in doing more work about creative access. So really thinking about access from the beginning of the production process and including it within the performance. In an ideal world, the utopia that I want to head for is to make more performances accessible for more people, so that people don't have to choose to go to the small percentage of accessible performances that you may have for each production, so that audiences can feel welcome going to every performance and still be able to access them.
And finally, I know that you've mentioned earlier that you yourself are neurodivergent, so you obviously have lived experience within your everyday life. And I think that's really useful when you have that experience yourself and you're working within a role. So how do you find it yourself, like being neurodivergent and working in this role of sort of inclusion?
Yeah, I think that's a really big drive for me in this job. I'm neurodivergent, and so are my two children, and I was brought up with two deaf parents, so being brought up with sign language, and I, I, it's a real passion of mine to make performances accessible. I've always been into theatre, but seeing my parents never been able to access the things that I've wanted them to see, or the things that I performed in, has been really frustrating. Or when I've dragged them along, they've often fallen asleep or something in the middle of the performance. And but also seeing the response in them now when they can engage fully with performances, it gives me so many goosebumps to see that interaction and the benefits that they get from being included in the world of theatre. And as I said, I kind of grew up with theatre, so I didn't personally experience that many social anxieties. There are social anxieties, obviously, but seeing my children and introducing them into the theatre and seeing how it's also enriched their lives. The first time I took my eldest child to the theatre, I think we had 10 attempts of trying to get in and trying to get him used to it. He really wanted to go, but there were so many things that were unusual and distracting and uncomfortable for him. And we suffered as a parent, even a neurodivergent parent, suffering so many embarrassing encounters taking my neurodivergent son in, with him not behaving as expected. And so I can really relate to that experience as a parent of a child, of someone who's neurodivergent. But he's really been able to access theatre over the last few years and is really thriving now at the age of 14. And drama at school is one of his favourite subjects. And you can see that it's benefiting his, whole self, the emotional well-being of him as well. So I do think that's why I love theatre, and that's why it has to be accessible for everyone, because of the emotional well-being that it can give everyone. And also, yeah, it can be a real struggle for me working in an office environment, and yeah, there's so many social etiquette things like that, and feeling the barriers, I suppose. They're not just my personal barriers, but I feel like I'm representing communities, and I've, come across those barriers myself. So there are some times where I can find it unbelievably hard and frustrating and, saddening. But there are also moments of pure joy that I wouldn't give up for the world. Yeah, when you see it working and when you get feedback from audiences, it's the most wonderful experience.
Oh, thank you, Josefa, for sharing your very personal story. I'm sure it will resonate with a lot of my audience members. And just one final point, because this was something I picked up from Dean in episode 1, is that the Royal Shakespeare Company, you don't just do, the classical Shakespearean plays, you also do like more modern plays, like for example, Red Shoes, which is a more modern retelling. So do you enjoy that mix of, you're getting the best of both worlds, getting the at one point side you're getting the classical Shakespeare, and then the other side getting the more modern theatre stories?
Yeah, I think we definitely get the best of both worlds here. It's so lovely being able to really immerse yourself in the classics, and always see it with fresh eyes each time with a different production. There's always another different meaning that you find in it. And again, being neurodivergent, I really struggled with Shakespeare at school, but I later went on to focus on Shakespeare. And I kind of think the rewards come with Shakespeare of that kind of feeling of like, I got it, I understand it. And so even though I struggle with it, I love those eureka moments that you get with it. And then the new plays, and I'm revisiting more contemporary classics, I think is again such a wonderful experience. It's great to I feel really privileged to work with a company that have access and can produce so many quality productions, with the set and the costumes and the wigs and the creatives that we get on board. It is just a huge privilege.
Okay, well, thank you, Josefa. It's been really great to speak with you, and thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Well, have a lovely rest of your day.
And you.
Bye
Bye.
bye.